Cowardice asks, the question, is it safe? Expediency asks, the question, is it politic? Vanity asks, the question, is it popular? But conscience asks, the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must do it because conscience tells him it is right.
Every time our country stands in the path of danger, an instinct seems to summon her finest first, those who truly understand her. When freedom shivers in the cold shadow of true peril, it's always the patriots who first hear the call. When loss of liberty is looming, as it is now, the siren sounds first in the hearts of freedom's vanguard.
Fighting for humanity and against globalism, one mind at a time. It's the Freedom Link with Joe Joseph.
Welcome, everybody, to another exciting edition of the Freedom Link here this Saturday, the 10th of February, 2024. I'm Joe Joseph, along with Scotty Lopez, and as you'll see below, another exciting OG of independent Ron Paul revolution, the man with the solution, who wrote this resolution. And he does want to stop the pollution. Kenneth Webb, that's right. Hey, buddy, change the channel on YouTube, folks, if you're still interested in that. And I'll tell you what, there's an archive of, there's a history there. And talk about a guy that's made a heck of an impact on so many people over the years. Man, Ken, it's good to have you here, buddy.
I tell you what, brother, it is good to ride again with y'all. It has been some years, and the madness, as you know, continues. I mean, it never ends. Never ends. And it's so good that we got back together like this once again. And I feel blessed to be with y'all here tonight and everybody out there listening. Definitely, brothers and sisters, truthers and adorners of the 10-4 hat, because we don't believe in magic bullets, buildings will fall like that. And yes, absolutely great to ride with y'all. Good seeing y'all again.
I'll tell you what,
fantastic.
For people that don't know, Ken, he was with YouTube when YouTube was an infant. I mean, it was almost like beta, Scotty, right? Like, seriously. And this was before there was any censorship. This is when everything was totally organic, that if you had a subscriber, your videos, your notifications went to them. And there really wasn't that censorship complex that was set up. So that was a really powerful platform, you know, right. And it predated, I think it was after Napster and before Facebook. Facebook and YouTube kind of developed on their own over the years, but yes, the MySpace era, yes.
Right. You know,
that's kind of when it all evolved, right? So
at that time, it was the internet was more of a bit of a Wild West, right?
Wild West,
and we were just starting to see the rise, the beginnings of the burgeoning social media and sort of viral
the power,
power of internet, of stuff on the internet. And so, you know, in the beginning days of YouTube, I mean, you had it really, you know, there was no algorithm. Everything was generated and driven organically. And, you know, when you have something like that, you know, you have the perfect, you know, place for the truth to spread and for people to get, you know, get the word out there about a lot of this stuff. And, you know, Ken, he's one of the OGs. He's been there for
since the beginning.
Since the beginning, you know. And so it's wild. And you know, one of the things I always point to is the movie The Obama Deception, right?
Oh
Chances
yeah,
are, if you've seen that movie, if you've watched that, you watched that on Ken's channel, ChangeDaChannel, because that's where a lot of people went
that's where a
to
lot of
go
people
watch
got to
that.
know him. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah,
And then of
truly one
course,
of
oh
the
yeah,
OGs, man.
one of the OGs for sure. So
And well, I was gonna put in there that was like the one of the first big social networking sites. I mean, we had MySpace back then, but
Right.
it was they put so much stuff in there. It ran so slow that people would
Mm-hmm.
just get really tired of that. But now, of course, before Facebook and all of that, but they had it was more social networking friendly back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah,
Without all of that, they had the groups, so you could get in groups. People could make, you know, what they would call nowadays reaction videos. It's basically you're just making a video about, a video that somebody else made and would like go up under there. Yeah, yeah. Oh, back in the
Right.
days,
oh
it was
man, I
really
remember
good
doing
before
those. That's
Google.
funny. I remember doing those. That's a oh boy, yeah. So anyway, it's good. So Ken will be a fixture on the Freedom Link from here on forward, and
Right.
we're also going to have some other OGs that have in the past made a tremendous impact on so many people. So it's good. We're getting the band back together, and in a time when um, everybody kind of needs to band together. There is a lot of shall we say, trials and tribulations that we're all dealing with, but it's going to exponentially get worse. That's all I can say. And so I'm going to start out tonight. I want to talk a little bit about what's happened politically before we get into the disease X. And that's they're losing control of the narrative.
Mm.
And when you lose control, when anybody that's managing something, right? When they start to lose control of a situation, they typically are not cool under fire. That's not how things happen when the wheels on the bus start coming off, you know? You tend to make some pretty panic moves. You tend to be very reactive. You think more emotionally, um, uh, and that's kind of what's happening now because the control freaks have lost control of the information stream, if you will. They don't own it like they used to. And for many years, they had. You know, uh, I used to do a conspiracy show many years ago, and one of the things we focused on um, was the history of media and how over the course of time it's always been managed by oh 100 people, maybe 100 people, until say the mid 20th century when that number started shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking until now today it was controlled. Mainstream media is controlled by 6 people. 6 people control the entire mainstream media. And then all that news filters down. That's why you see people, oftentimes comedians, will make fun of the fact that, you have this global station that puts out this story. And then you'll have a regional station that verbatim says the exact same thing, down to the local stations, verbatim saying the exact same thing, the same story, the same script, all going through all the different teleprompters from the biggest down to the smallest. It filters down. And so guys like your Wall Street titans were very big on buying up all the news. JP Morgan was a big owner of newspapers and controlled that information stream. Then what we found out as time progressed, and through the Norman Dodd Commission, right, was that these financiers and these endowments were then going into the colleges and universities. This is funny too, because this is getting a lot of news out there, right? All this, what do they say? environmental, social, woke governance, all this being taught and kids in school being programmed. Oh my God, I can't believe it. This is happening now in America. But if you look at the Dodd report, it was happening as early as the 1920s and has been going on ever since. As a matter of fact, Carol Reese, who had really started this, it was the Reese Committee that commissioned Norman Dodd to look into the endowments to see if they were using academia and curriculum to bring about a communist takeover of the United States, which, of course, that's what we are, whether you like it or not. So, time goes on. The control freaks all the while have had this thing locked down, and people in lockstep doing everything, following public service announcements. You had leaders, very charismatic leaders that could sell the message and be able to keep the people's faith and trust, at least here in the United States. And that's totally gone off the deep end. Now we're leaderless, if you think about it, because this guy, this guy has the faculties of a sunbeam toaster at this point, and no fault of his own. I mean, he's 81 and senile, and that's what happens. So it's okay, it's all right, whatever. But damn.
And then we went into, Operation Mockingbird even. I mean, the influence of media and just putting these messages out there
That's right.
And
but it's because of you works like you, Ken. It's because of people like you and others who enlighten so many people along the way that now they can't stop it without actually being overt and stopping it. They can't hide it. And that's why they're not hiding so many things now and doing it out in the open.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Nowadays, it just seems to me as like, at least back in the day, they tried really hard. I mean, you had to dig through, things, legislation that was being passed, things in bills. You had to dig up declassified government documents and stuff. No, they'll put it right on the screen, right in front of you, and tell you you did not see what you just saw.
That's right.
That is just crazy, guys.
They've become the masters of gaslighting the population,
Big time.
And that's what they do. They constantly gaslight people, and because they can't hide a lot of this stuff anymore. It has to, they've been able to get away with so much, kind of in the background, in the shadows, and behind the scenes, where people can't notice and wouldn't notice. But now things are becoming completely, obvious, and now it's like they've decided, well, we might as well just do it out in the open, right? And if anyone complains about it, well then, hey, if they keep screaming that the sky is blue, we're gonna keep telling them that it's purple.
Yeah, but here's the interesting thing about it, right? Here's the interesting thing about it. And I've said this before, and I'll always say this, that at any time we could stop this tomorrow. We could. If we could just all band together and we all sit down and we say, no, we're not, that's it. We're not doing this anymore. Nope. I'm not going to work. I'm not going to buy anything. I'm not going to go do it. Nope. Not doing, I'm done. Done.
But the thing about it is everybody's bogged down, with got to work, got to pay the bills. A lot of people don't want, a lot of people know that this stuff's going on. I mean, how could you not really? But, they
tell you the economy. They tell you the economy's fine, right? It reminds me of Bush. Remember, the fundamentals of the economy are sound. I will never forget that, man. And everybody knew, like, what? Are you kidding me, man? The fundamental. Okay. The present day, right? Oh, yeah. Well, I can't understand why people are so upset. Well, I mean, why? Rents exploded. You can't afford your electric bill or gas bill. I mean, duh.
Come on, guys! Bill. Don't you love Bidenomics? It's the greatest thing since sliced bread, brother.
But that's the problem. It's not just Biden. It's not just him. They're controlled by the Federal Reserve. You know, you could say
Exactly.
all you want about who does what, but history shows and leaders over time have acknowledged that they don't control things. It's the bankers. The bankers could change things on a dime, and they don't do it. Why? Because if you're in debt and if you're bogged down, you're controllable. And that's why they do it. That's why they do it.
Right.
And so you're going to see more bogging down, but you're also going to see less and less of us making it to old age. That's also part of the plan. And the problem that we're dealing with now, on top of everything else that we're dealing with, is we have a disease now that is killing a lot of people, but not being documented correctly. We call them excess deaths. That's the easiest term that we can call them. But deaths are being cataloged and they are abnormal and unexplained, right?
Mm.
So, um,
Yeah, a lot of young people. I mean, they've been out there working out their whole life. They don't smoke. They don't drink. They don't do anything. Been doing push-ups since they was a fetus. And these guys is in prime health, and they just dropping dead left and
just
right. And
dropping dead.
I'm sitting there
Yep.
going like, what in the world is going on with that? How
Yeah,
can these be? And it's not like a big deal. I mean, this, generally if there was, real media out there, I mean, this would be like a big story because we need to find this out. Why is all these healthy people just dropping dead out of
because
the
they're
clear
afraid.
blue?
They're
Hmm.
afraid. They're afraid of what will happen if they were to come out and say, look, well, in trying to save everybody, trying to save you from a 0.085 death rate, right? Yeah, right. And doing so,
Right.
we inadvertently created a medical intervention that causes 25% excess deaths. Now, I would imagine that that news would not be taken so well by a lot of people, probably a lot of people that have been dealing with um, issues post disease and um, are dealing with these long term symptomologies, right? Well, now you might have some answers. Now you might have some answers. So, come to find out, there is a troubling trend that is being seen by funeral parlors, embalmers, um, some morticians, um, sometimes during autopsies, but not really. The major time they see this is during the embalming process. And that embalming process really involves flushing out the arteries and the veins and filling it with formaldehyde, a preservative, if you will, so that you don't end up stinking it up when people are saying their goodbyes. So they can't get the stuff in through the veins. And they're like, this, we haven't seen this before. And not veins, arteries. This is the other interesting thing is that it's affecting primarily the arterial system, which is like trying to maintain a clot in like 1500 psi. You know what I mean? It's just like wicked, like that's a lot of pressure. So clots are not really seen often in the arterial system. It's always the veins. And typically when you deal with clots, it's almost like a jelly. They call it grape
Right.
jelly, right? So this grape jelly it's a clot and you can typically you can't even pick it up. It'll just break in your hands. And then so they're seeing this in a tremendous amount of the bodies that they're processing. And there's cause for concern enough to where professionals are starting to question it and start to publish studies into this. And what they're seeing is a formation of amyloid fibers or amyloid proteins that make this fibrous lining inside your arterial walls and your veins, and they're causing blockages. And people are dying of heart attacks and strokes. People are feeling fatigued. And if you notice, one of the long COVID symptoms is fatigue, like they can't even get their energy up. So you're the president of the United States, and or whatever. Let's just say I'm the CEO of Pfizer.
Hmm.
And I just have this come to Jesus moment, and I'm going to lay it all out. Like I said, I can't imagine. So here I have a rubbery lining that's clogging your arteries and your veins that nothing short of um, liquid plumber is probably going to break down. And they're pulling this stuff out like it's terrible. I'm going to play a video of Dr. John Campbell discussing it with a funeral parlor director over in the UK and kind of what he's observing. I'll give you a clip, and I really want you to watch this and the other video he has on his channel regarding this white fibrous substance that they're finding in the arteries. He's done a lot of videos lately on that. It's tremendously informative. And I'm a big fan of Dr. John Campbell because
Yeah.
he's one of those guys they just can't touch because he's like the grandfather figure. You know, he's established and nothing short of just totally and completely defaming him, among other things, is going to take him out. And I don't even think that would. But I want you to check this out now. This is Dr. John Campbell talking to a funeral director about what they're seeing as they're going through the embalming process.
Right. So you made two really good points there, John. First of all, this is something you're still seeing frequently. What kind of the bodies that you are embalming, what sort of frequency are we talking about?
I would say around a quarter of the bodies.
25%.
Yeah, around 25% overall. It's very interesting because as a funeral director, there are two types of death. We've got sudden deaths and we've got expected deaths. Where there's a sudden death, quite often those people are given a post-mortem. And during the post-mortem process, obviously the organs are removed. They take blocks and slides, and then they place the organs in a bag, and the bag goes back in the cavity, and it's sewn up. So clearly, the embalming process is very different for someone who's been chopped about, for want of a better word. Yeah. And we have to literally open them up, take those organs out, and manually target the arteries and inside the body cavity of that deceased. And that is where you see them then, because you're at the very core of that person's body. And you can see the, I've got an example here.
Thank you. Yeah.
This is a particular sample we took recently from a deceased, and it was taken from the arteries purely because it was an obstruction. We couldn't get the embalming pump in the arteries to put the fluid around their body, and this is why. And it was interesting because I watched what you said a couple of nights ago, the other night, about them being a cast. And they are exactly that. They grow inside the arteries and veins, and they take the exact shape of those arteries and veins. And what I suspect happening is some people, for whatever reason, be that their blood type or what they've been given, perhaps they're reacting in this way where they're growing this stuff inside them, and it's growing inside their arteries to the point where they're not getting adequate circulation, and they're falling over and they're dying.
You're muted, Joe.
25%.
Right.
25%.
That's crazy, dude.
Now, Campbell also had a guy, a former major. I can't remember his name, but you'll see it in his videos of this questionnaire they sent out. And they asked very specific questions to minimize bias, everything else. And the numbers are staggering of how many people have this. And I'll tell you what, it's prevalently people that have partook of the medical intervention. Yeah,
right.
It's primarily that. So, so if the president of Pfizer comes out and says, "Hey, you know, this is what we did," by the way, there's nothing we could do about it. So, you're talking about 25% of the people that these morticians are seeing have this issue. That would also equal a lot of the excess deaths. If you look at that, the numbers are very, very close. So you create this medical intervention for a disease that has less than a 1% mortality rate, but create something that creates a 25% rate, if you will, in all the deaths that they're seeing. How in the hell does that happen? But wait, there's more. Because the Freedom Link always has a historical look at things. So when I cut my teeth around the same time that Ken was coming up, my very first co-host of the Freedom Link, there was Johnny King, of course, but there was also A.C. Griffith. And A.C. Griffith was a pioneer in independent media. He did things just like the OGs did way back. You're talking like Ed Griffins and those guys that did everything through university libraries and research, and then having to publish them in magazines and creating mailing. I mean, it was hard back then. Hard. But Griff and I, through our research with chemtrails, and of course, he was one of the founding people that kind of blew the lid off of the whole chemtrail thing back in 1999. Through our research, we found a gentleman by the name of Clifford Carnicom. Now, Clifford Carnicom runs a organization called the Carnicom Institute. And the focus of the Carnicom Institute is the research into something called Morgellons disease. And of course, you've probably heard of that as well. And if you haven't, it's a very, very interesting disease that there's not much you can really do about it. They have these ways that you can flush the system out, but you never really get rid of it. You can just kind of keep it in check. And they originally called it like this bacterial infection, but really that's not what it is. What Cliff's research found was a synthetic type of nano engine, if you will, that created this fibrous material that almost resembled a fiber optic system being basically distributed through the body, to the point where people would be pulling red and blue synthetic fibers out of their skin, out of these sores that develop. And Morgellons is very, very prevalent along high areas of aircraft traffic, a la chemtrails, things like that. And over the years, Clifford was sent samples and he did research and bought all this equipment to look at this stuff and do the scientific study. And like I say, what he came up with was Morgellons was a synthetic, basically technologically created disease, but very similar in nature to what we're seeing with this one. And I would bet you, and I've reached out to Clifford to come on to the podcast so that we can discuss this at length, because I'll bet you it was I think it's about 12 years ago, the last time I talked to him. I'll bet you that he's probably a lot farther down and understanding what's going on with the excess deaths than we probably even know. And I just pulled up this article. This is from the Carnicom Institute. Cross-domain bacteria and synthetic biology equivalents, blood clots, skin afflictions, and polymers. And he writes all of this stuff. He has resources going back 25, 30 years, and it's all on this website that I'm putting out here now. And I would just go check it out. This guy's legit. Been doing this for a long time. And so what he's saying is the equivalence of the impact of synthetic biology upon the blood and skin is established uh, he is taking those steps to understand the. Yeah, that's right. They didn't burn. It's crazy. He says, for those that wish to retain a fictional or a comfort version of the reality now upon us, some laboratory study might be helpful. Another starting point would be the exploration of the publicly disclosed activity and achievements in synthetic biology. Condemnation without appropriate effort is a hindrance to the truth and urgent progress required. It is no exaggeration that human biology is under siege. So he talks about Morgellons and the presence of these vinyl fibers. If you take a look at the disease that we're seeing now, we're seeing a disease with amyloid fibers, or the same type of protein that causes Alzheimer's disease. And that, my friends, is really crazy. And and think about the delivery and think about the technology. It was CRISPR that delivered it, right?
Right.
And all of that is similar technology to what happens with Morgellons, how it attaches to the cells, how it turns it into a spike factory, or
Right.
in this case, a fiber factory, and that's what happens.
And a thing I think that people need to understand is that it's, it doesn't have to be something as wild as like, oh my God, they put nano machines in you and they're running around your blood doing this and doing that. No, all they have to do is rewire your own DNA.
You become the factory.
You become the factory, right? So when you take this medical intervention, right, that is an mRNA,
it's a CRISPR kit.
It's a CRISPR
gene
kit,
drive.
right?
Think about this.
Right.
Now this is the interesting part.
Mhm.
I want to bring this I want to bring this home now, because we saw it on TED Talks, right? Gene drives. Tell me that COVID is not a gene drive, because gene drives are spread through the air. They're spread through, like a CRISPR kit, where the body becomes the CRISPR kit and it self-replicates and it self-replicates and it spreads and it does all that. They put it out in 2015, gene drives. They did it on mosquitoes, red eye and blue eye, right? And within one generation, all of the blue eye mosquitoes were gone. There were 100 red eyes. Within one generation, that gene drive spread and took it all out. And that's all I'm saying, is that they have the technology, whether it be Morgellons, whether it be long COVID, whether it be this.
It's making your own body create these polymers, and create, this stuff that's gunking up the veins and the arteries, right?
It's nuts.
It's crazy, yeah.
Especially when you.
And the thing about it is you have to wonder.
Yeah.
I mean, because that this is, they mean to do this. This is what they're doing. I mean, personally, I believe,
I do too.
depopulation, all these kinds of things. I mean, it's a lot of people. It's hard to control people, through their usual means. They did away with the whips and chains, but the game remained the same kind of thing. But it's like they have to protect themselves as well. I mean, I can't imagine, them unleashing things around and they're just cool with it themselves, getting, any of these symptoms, any of these kind of diseases, any of these kinds of things. They have to protect themselves as well. Yeah,
Right.
it's very sinister, very, very
sinister.
sinister.
Yeah. Well, it also, I think it says that even those at the very highest that we see, right? Those are probably, those aren't the control guys. They don't do that. They're just puppets. They get put there, they get selected, all that stuff.
Yeah, we don't see the main controllers for sure.
No doubt. Go ahead, Scotty.
Well, and it also makes me think about, remember years ago there was that report in Europe somewhere. I want to say, what was it, like the Dutch royalty or something like that, where they said that they were receiving the clean one, as opposed to oh, you're muted, right? You're muted, Joe.
I can't remember the exact percentage, and but I can tell you that the majority of the people suffering this, or what they're seeing, are people that got the medical intervention.
Right, right. And so we also have to think, the sort of medical things that the peons that we receive are nowhere near the kind of medical treatments and things that those in power and the powers that shouldn't be, uh, you know, they're receiving the true groundbreaking medical technology. They're receiving the clean versions of this stuff, and they're able to treat a lot of that stuff. But
I wonder
the
too.
average person isn't going to have access to a lot of that, and who knows? They might have the cure and the antidote to a lot of stuff. That
Oh
they're
yeah, no
just
doubt,
holding to themselves, and
dude. They probably have an AI that came up with it
it
right away.
right, and it made me think, because what was it, just last week they announced, oh, King Charles, he has cancer, right? And I was like, man, do you think the average person in the UK is going to receive a fraction of the care and attention and latest groundbreaking medical research that's going to be put into making sure he's cancer free, as opposed to
And the
your
only thing
average
separating
right?
him and that person is bloodline. That's it.
Right, right. So, you know, uh, when Ken was saying, how do they protect themselves, from a lot of this stuff? I think that they're holding on to a lot of things that we just, as the average
No
person, don't
doubt.
have access to. So they can unleash this stuff on us, and they can kind of just sit up in their
Well,
little
what
ivory
did Fort
towers
Detrick
and
do for years and years? It's like, come on. Not to mention the fact
right.
when you got billions of dollars, you can have your own damn clean room. You know, you can do that all
Right.
you want. It's you got all that stuff. So who knows what's been developed? You're absolutely right. One thing that's
Hmm.
interesting though that I find, and I think there's a connection here, is about the same time all this stuff unfolds, the Georgia Guidestones get sacrificed.
I was going to say something about that too. Absolutely. Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
one of the prime focuses of conspiratorial independent media, the Georgia Guidestones, they blow them up. Nobody knows what happened, even though there's cameras everywhere. Nobody knows what happened. And I truly think they were sacrificed. I think it was a sacrifice. And when they did that, because they wrote their plan in stone, and then they place it in the middle of nowhere, and I still think there's significance to where they placed it. I don't know what that is, but I'm sure there is. Then this happens, boom, and they sacrifice that damn thing. And I'm telling you, it has something to do with what's going on right now. I don't know what, but I know it does.
Oh, it absolutely does. There's no way because that was like the marker for all of us. It would go like, wow, it's like they even have it written in all of these different languages, all of this, out there. They're playing, for the perfect population of the planet, which makes sense because I mean that would be they could control that level. I think what was it, Scotty? Was it like a quarter of a million people,
Yeah, I
250,000,
want to say it
something
was
like
like
that?
It was
200
500
and
million.
five
500
I mean,
hundred.
million.
right,
Yeah,
right,
y-
yeah,
y-
and they
But
they could control that a lot better than all these billions of heads. I mean, like
that's
that's
right.
why they have to work so hard, and then, yeah, and then all of a sudden, I remember they put those cameras up. I've had they had somebody spray paint it and things
PD
of
and
that nature. So they had all the
egghead.
cameras, and all of a sudden, boom, gets blown up, and it's gone.
Yep.
All of the evidence is gone and back down into the annals of history.
Yep. That's right.
mm,
So, with that being said, and knowing how these control freaks are, and they got in power with some help from some dark entities that they serve, and we know this. All you got to do is go talk to Bob Dylan about it. He'll tell you all about it. If you don't believe in all the conspiracy crap, just ask Bob. Because there's a great example of the devil giving you a deal. A guy that really can't hold a note to save his life, right? Come on, man. I don't care if you listening to Bob Dylan's like taking a drink of a beer for the first time. You take it, it's like, damn, man, what is this? You know what I mean? It's not like I never saw anybody take a first sip of beer and go, oh, that is right there, baby. Yeah, that's it. No. It's always it's an acquired taste, you see. It's not about the taste, it's about where it gets you. And it's the same thing. You know, it's the same thing. It's just like that first taste of beer. Uh it's not really a good thing. So, what do you think is what do you think it was? Do you think that guys like Aldous Huxley, um, when they laid out in Brave New World, like that whole the utopian society and all that, and how you had this measured, systematic society. Look at birth rates.
Right.
Look at birth rates. Right. Tell me that at some point one of these countries is going to breach that. We're not having enough babies. We're at a critical juncture. Our society's going to collapse. We're going to grow them. We're going to start to grow humans.
I bet China's the first to do it.
Oh,
If
absolutely.
they're not already doing it.
Right? And then you grow humans.
Right.
You grow humans. You got to engineer them for the tasks. You know, you're going to have the really smart ones. You're going to make like the cons of the world, right? My
Right.
superior intellect, yes. And then, of course, then you're going to have like the middle of the road, your managers, your white collar class. You're going to have your blue collar class. And you're going to have the people that sweep the streets because they're still cheaper than robots, right? And
the ones that really will cause a problem, they just won't be produced.
They just won't be produced, right? And everybody's they're gonna worship the Model T and all that shit. Maybe not Henry Ford or something like that, but I'll tell you what. You can see this happening. Probably not exactly the way he saw it in the 1920s, but damn, if it's not spot on as far as, you know, having a engineered society.
I truly believe though that they can do whatever they want to do and they can do all of that they want. But at the end of the day, there's gonna have to be it's just like, you know, like the Matrix or something. Somebody's gonna wake up and go like, man, what's going on? You know, this ain't right. This isn't fair. That's one thing. Fairness. It's like why would I have to be, the cat out in the street sweeping? And what's the difference between me and the person who's got living a little bit better, but it's just pre-chosen that I'm going to be this way because of some genetics, It's like I feel that as long as they exist, it's going that evil side, that nastiness, the unfairness, whatever you want to call it. As long as that stuff's going on, there's going to be people like us. They can engineer, they can do whatever they want to. There's going to be some kind of break there that somebody's going to be like, there's always going to be that revolution. It can't, I don't think it could be just 100% they won, it's over. No way it's going to go down like that.
Yeah, create a living new language. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's one of the things that the Guidestone says, was create a living new
It reminds me a lot of, remember that movie Gattaca?
Yeah, very much so.
Right. And you had people that were kind of chosen on their social status based off of genetics and all of that stuff. And yeah, I mean they're definitely heading down that road. And with all of the stuff that you see with like Agenda 2030, Agenda 2050, all of this planning of like mega cities and sustainable, these utopian sustainable smart cities and all that stuff. It's all of the same stuff that kind of you see in that Brave New World 1984 vision for everything, right? Where we live in this utopia of everything's planned and central planning and the technocracy kind of like runs everything and manages everything. And, that's the direction they're going. They're wanting to have AI run a lot of the things and manage stuff and
look at the homeless crisis.
Right?
Look at the homeless crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Right now they're saying there's a severe lack of affordable housing. We all know that. They said that even the latest study is outdated now, and they say that it's 3.5 million affordable homes that we're short right now. The market is short 3.5 million. Really, what happened was you had all these hedge funds and retirement funds, Black Rocks, all these banksters and Wall Street come in and swoop up all the real estate and create a shortage. That's what happened. That's what happened. They created a shortage. At the same time, you had inflation. At the same time, you had a self-created, inflicted on us energy crisis. Even though we have the most abundant resources on the planet, we're paying out the nose for electricity and for gas when we shouldn't. It is an engineered collapse. For what? But at the same time, they're also creating diseases, releasing them on the public, to the point where even the henchmen are exposed and are sacrificed. You have population issues because you're not having enough babies, which allows you to implement that plan, of an engineered society. You're creating these mega cities, these smart cities in Neom, Denver, Glasgow, Stockholm, Nashville. I mean, I could go on and on. All these mega cities that will track everything and everyone. Everybody's going to have an ID. Everybody's waste will be monitored. I mean, to the point where they'll be able to tell if you're doing something illicit just based on number one and number two.
Right.
That's how crazy
Yeah,
it can
because
get and will get if
because
we
you
don't stop it.
right, because you take a number 2 in your smart toilet and it's gonna scan it and maybe report to the authorities that you've been engaging in some illicit activities, consuming something that maybe you shouldn't have been consuming, and yeah, I mean it's wild. It's like a nightmare scenario, man.
Yeah, and then after they sacrificed the guidestones, wokeism went nuclear, right? Even though it's been happening for quite some time, it was never as perverse as this, where you're told black is white and up is down,
Right.
and then told to accept it, that
Right.
that's the way it is. And they
Mhm.
know, Ken, that 80% of the people are just going to go along to get along.
Oh, absolutely. And you're talking about the agendas, right? We have seen Agenda 21. Well, we talked about Agenda 21 coming out, and look
Right.
what happened during that period. I mean, the social and economic dimensions totally just everything just really got crazy during the whole COVID slash, the rioting all around the world, everything, all society, where the law, which another section of that was strengthening Agenda 21, Section 3 of the Section 5 was strengthening the role of major groups, big groups, all the Soros
Yes.
stuff, really gaining
Right.
control, and everybody jumped on board with that to grasp that power. I mean, remember after 9/11 was the same thing. It's like these big jumps and big things that they had. So it's really interesting. Like now we're looking, towards the 2030 plan, things of that. And after we had just had Agenda 21 actually come to
Mm-hmm.
fruition, and we've seen what happened then, and all of the little tools in their tool belt that they got to collect, and that's all the governments around the world, major groups having big focus and pushing like media to to do the things that they're doing openly, all the rules and regulations and laws and everything that they just it is crazy looking from that what we used to talk about, prior back in the 2018, 2017, all of that, and all the way up till the actual fruition of Agenda 21. Actually, here it is. Here's their plans, their means and implementations that just, came out. And it's like you kind of forget about that as we go through,
Right.
through day to day life, struggling in this crazy economy we're in. But like looking back, like, yep, they did that. Now we look ahead and we know like they're not playing with this stuff. They're not playing at all. You know what I'm saying? They working, 24
Yeah.
hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on this stuff every year, and they do not stop. They're planning. They're not just planning for the next elections or anything like that.
Oh
They're
no,
planning
they're
on 20, 30.
multi-generational.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's total mayhem. But I mean, for anybody who would think this stuff was some kind of conspiracy theory like they used to back in the day, nah, look, here they've came out with these plans, they've implemented these plans, and here is, the what's going on after these plans and what they're looking forward to, in the future to do.
But make no bones about it, it is a conspiracy, but it's a conspiracy against us, and it ain't no theory. There's no theory about it. You're watching it
Right.
Exactly,
unfold in real time,
exactly.
and the problem that they're running up against is the fact that they can't control the narrative because we now have a record of all of us little freedom fighters going around and documenting these things and putting them out there for years and years and years. And doing so has spread it to the point we've been shown to be right more times than we were wrong. And when we were wrong, we eat crow for it because you're not going to be right 100% of the time. Sometimes these paths lead down crazy rabbit holes that you just wouldn't believe some of the
Sometimes
stuff
you
that
just gotta sometimes you just gotta suck it up, admit you were wrong, that you got
right.
hoodwinked
But
on
now there's a
something, and
record.
continue
So
to push forward, you know?
I
and
like
because
that.
of that,
I like that
Yeah.
when we're wrong, it's like, okay, good.
Yeah.
Now I know the truth because that's basically what it's all about. You want to know
yeah,
the truth. We have theories,
Yeah.
so we're looking at it, that is supported by evidence that that we dig up, that we see,
yeah,
and then we go on. If we find out we're wrong, I'll be the first one to say, okay, good, good, I was wrong. I'm glad it didn't
yeah.
turn
Thank
out
God
that
for that.
great. Exactly,
That's right.
exactly.
So interestingly enough, more people are rejecting this. Look at how many people got the latest medical intervention that came out. I think it's less than 12% of of adults had gotten that medical intervention.
I like what you call it. I like how you label that. Medical intervention.
That's a Dr. John Campbell special there, man. He knows how to do it. And I'll
Right.
tell you what,
That's
I
smooth.
Yeah,
am
I
he's
all
like it.
for
smooth
it.
with
I
it,
will
man.
use the terminology that is an effective terminology and a great term because that's exactly what it was. And even more than that, when you start messing with people's programming, you're basically doing a firmware change on MFers. You know what I'm saying? And you got to be careful because the code is a lot more complex with these organic computers than DOS or Windows or anything else. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I think I think there was a little hubris on their part. They kind of overshot. Oh yeah, we got the technology. We'll just use the gene drive. We'll just break out the CRISPR because they've been so. It's like there's a
Just edit the code, even
there's
though
a
we don't know
50%
what
chance
all
we're
the
gonna
code
burn up the
means.
atmosphere of the earth. If we press this red button right here. But they had to do it. They had to do it, even though it didn't happen. And I get it. There was still a probability that probably exceeded a reasonable factor when you start talking about how many billions of lives on the planet, and they couldn't stop themselves. They had to do it. You know what I mean? So this is no different. Oh, let's see what happens when we release this upon the masses. you know? Oh yeah. So I kind of get the idea. Oh, and it's a means to an end, and we'll this and that and everything else. They use these crises. It's so multi-layered and complex that it's very hard to follow. But more and more people are starting to understand them thanks to the work of guys like Ken and so many others over the years to just make people aware that what they're being told is not the truth. And now you have like what, a 6% approval rate or for Congress. Nobody trusts the media. They just came out at Davos, and the CEO of the Wall Street Journal is like, we don't control this anymore. We used to own it. We don't anymore. And it's because they've lost the trust. They've lost the trust. It ain't Walter
Right.
Cronkite anymore. Yeah, you look at these yahoos telling the news, you could tell, they're just fakes. They're just people there just reading a teleprompter. And that's all they are, useful idiots, And so I hope and pray that more and more people wake up to this. But I have to say that I don't want to be anybody even near associated with that medical intervention at this point, especially if what these morticians are seeing, if there's, obviously there's validity to it, but just how expansive is it and how much has it taken hold and can they stop it? That's the other thing.
Chicken noodle soup and some ginger ale. You ride it out. Same way as always.
Oh,
I'm serious.
man.
That's what I do. That's what we do around my house. You get a little chicken noodle soup and you get you some crackers and some ginger ale. Yes. And then you ride it out. Hey, it might be a little rough ride because it's something different. And granted, it might last longer. But at the end of the day, nerve. You ain't putting that stuff in my veins. No way.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's a problem. There's a visible evidence. The brain was just saying that the evidence, they didn't expect to have this much evidence left behind. You know what I mean?
Right. I think they flew a little too close to the sun on this one, and it kind of came back and bit them. And but yeah, I mean, we're about to head out to break, Mr. Joseph.
Yes, we are.
What are we going to get into in hour 2?
Oh, so I want to get into a little something about what's going on over here with the immigration crisis over in Massachusetts, because it's getting a little ugly on this side of the country. Also, there is no environmental impact statement required, as a court has decided in favor of a project to release 8 billion lab-altered mosquitoes. So now we're going to have, we're just going to get a little more of that because we didn't get enough of that. No, enough pinpricks and things like that. And also the economy. So Brandon Smith, one of my favorite guys that write about the economy, has done a great piece, came out today, about what's coming as far as a global economic war. And it's getting pretty bad because China is getting more desperate as their economy starts to falter. And Russia revealed some very interesting stuff in this interview that Tucker Carlson did with Vladimir Putin. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that too. So there's a lot to be talking about, and we shall do that. But before we do, I just want to invite everybody to go over to kgradb.com. You can also check us out on Rumble. That's all right. Go to KGRADB on Rumble, and you can watch us live. But go to the website and support. I mean, this is hands down the best independent media broadcasting outfit I've ever been associated with. And I hate to use the word diverse programming only because of what the DEI stuff has done. It's a very bad word now, very naughty, but I'm still going to use it. It's a diverse set of programming. Yes. And it is. I mean, you can listen to stuff about Sasquatch, to the Chittahuri, to Murder, Death, Kill. I mean, it's all there. It's all there. And then you get a little freedom link to boot. Ooh, yeah. But we'll be right back. Don't go away. More freedom link at the top of the hour.
Woo!
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake, kickstart your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play, boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm gonna take it for the energy. I'm gonna take it for the play. I'm gonna take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
It's hour number 2 of the Freedom Link here, kgradb.com. And
Mr. Joseph, you might flip your mic down.
Whoop! I brought this up because, as you remember our last conversation, they had just opened a migrant center in the center of Roxbury, at the only community center they have in Roxbury. A lot of these kids, this is the only stability they have in their life, and they took the community center away instead of going to more affluent communities that might have the resources to allow, that these kids probably have a lot more interaction with their parents and things like that. Roxbury is very low income. So there she is, Maura Healey, and she is truly a terror. And so she puts that migrant center into action. She seizes the community center, puts all these there. Guess what, guys? It's at capacity already. And now it's a crisis again. And so now they're talking about, well, there's such backlash from it that they're actually going to one of the more affluent communities in Boston to start to shelter. But it's more and more and more. Nothing's happening. This crisis, I swear Cloward Piven would be proud. This is as successful an operation as I think anybody's ever seen. And Congress, of course, is gridlocked. It's all right. Things are coming apart at the seams, and it's okay.
What do you guys what do you guys really think this is about? I mean, there's a lot of theories out there, from getting people in here that can vote Democrat, those types of things. Oh, they can take, turn Texas blue, this kind of thing. Yeah. But I'm thinking, okay, well, they're having all these inner cities and everything. They're having all the migration there. They, overusing the resources, reaching capacity, all these kinds of things. But it's like it's running businesses out. I mean, revenue for that. So I'm just always sitting here thinking, like, why would they destroy their own city with these types of things?
Because now I'm going to show you, because this is a useful idiot right here. So there she is, right? Now she's the governor of Massachusetts. She just nominated her ex-girlfriend, to the Massachusetts Supreme Court. Because, I don't see anything wrong. She's highly qualified. Hello, conflict of interest, just a little bit, perhaps. This is the problem when you deal with people like her, because they are compromised. They are compromised. They are people of limited moral character, and it shows in the way that they act, that their lifestyle choices, all of that stuff. You got to believe what your eyes see and your mind is telling you you're seeing, not what they tell you to believe. And the fact is that she thinks she's so damn privileged that she can take over the Roxbury Community Center and cause a crisis in a community that's already in crisis. But let's just make it worse.
Right.
Let's just throw a bunch of other people that are in crisis. Let's just put everybody in crisis together. And then the fact that they're all different, races. Oh, let's just get that and mash it all up. And there we go. Let's see what happens. It's just, what is the real reason? I think there's many reasons.
That's a multifaceted sort of
absolutely
attack that's occurring, and one of the main goals is that it's to put so much pressure on state economies that it accelerates a collapse, right? This is the Cloward and Piven strategy. This is all part of like the Great Reset stuff, where they need to reboot everything, and in order to start new, you have to tear down the old. And right now we're in the process where they need to collapse this current system in order for them to rebuild a new system in the image or in the way that they see fit. So
and don't forget too, they have the tools to simulate all this. That's the other thing I think we overlook oftentimes, is the fact that I think it was
they've war gamed this stuff out, and they've ran this stuff through simulations.
They've got sentient world simulation, all that kind of, and that's old. I mean, how have they improved on the model? Where they're getting such clear data, where they're getting such accurate probabilities.
Where are they gonna get the money? Where are you going to get the money to do all this? Is what I'm wondering. You look at that national debt already, and I know exactly, Federal Reserve, cha-ching, just print that money out.
They'll create it out of nowhere, or they'll just create their new global digital currency that you have to.
I just don't get it. But how can these people with any kind of real elections, in the local areas, how can these people continue to get elected?
I don't know.
It's like they run out all the family businesses, all of the everything that comes with the wide open door border policy in all the towns. Is just like, how can people who go along with this continue to get voted in to run it? It's like, no.
I know, man. I know, because every scenario takes you down a Snowpiercer route or a Demolition Man route or a Matrix route. One of those routes. It's like you've got visionaries that are playing it out on our side too, and saying, okay, what is this leading to? What could it possibly be? And there's some really good movies out there that portray what they see as the dystopian output of all this input. And it's interesting, you pointed out that, all the debt. Well, if we, for a second, did what the Bible used to say we should do, is every 7th year, Jubilee. You forgive all debts. Gone. See you later. Bye. Start over. Now, if we did that, you free humanity. They can't have that. They can't have that, because debt is there. That is the thumb on you. That is the jackboot on your neck. One of them. And it's crushing, and it's everywhere, and everybody it's very much so. I mean, I want you to think about this. The median rent in my town is $3,300 a month. The median rent.
Hey, day.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's why Massachusetts is having an outflow of people. Same with New York, same with Illinois, same with New Jersey, same with California. All of these places where you can't survive. I mean, even a family of mom and dad working together. Not happening, So what do you have? Now you have a very large population of homeless, severely undercounted, by the way. In all the stats that you hear, oh, yes, well, we have a crisis on our hands as there's over 500,000 that are homeless in the United States. I'm like, Jesus, man, it's like 500,000 homeless in New York, let alone 500,000 in the whole state. You know what I mean? But that's the craziness of the situation is they're making it impossible to live. Cattle, beef production is at a low that hasn't been seen since the early 60s. And they're saying that we're getting to a critical point of no return where a lot of these farmers are they're folding. They don't want to do it anymore. Now that they've sold off their herd, they're done. They're out.
And not only that, you got to remember,
and it's big pharma.
We had all those
big food.
Yeah, and you got to remember we had that during the lockdown and stuff. Remember all that weirdness with like these food production places burning to the ground and all of these cattle dying, mass cattle die-offs, and or cattle ranchers that had to put cattle down and all of that stuff. So, there was a lot of weirdness going on with that.
A lot of weirdness, and just again, more evidence towards this is an engineered crisis that we see. All of it.
All of it, because they do it's on purpose. There's no other. It's like, how do you know you don't? I mean, how does somebody not know you open up a border? Everybody come on down. They coming in here, crossing the border. I'm not saying these people are bad or anything like that. Some of them are, as we have seen, but a lot of people are. They're like, yeah, let's get up out of here. We can go over here. Hey, try American dream. We're gonna go here.
Right.
and try that, but then there's a lot of bad people coming on with drugs coming across the border like nobody's ever seen before.
And everything,
history.
right? So it used to be that if you wanted to go get an 8-ball, you got an 8-ball. But now you don't know. It's probably got fentanyl in it. And let me tell you, that's not pharmaceutical grade fentanyl either. That is the like elephant tranquilizer fentanyl. That's the bad crap. And then what happens, just like synthetic marijuana started out with a certain molecular structure, and then the feds caught on to it. See, because it's legal as long as the molecular structure is different than what's illegal. So they change a molecule here, a molecule there. Well, each time it happens, it gets worse and worse and worse, and it'll mess people up. Now, K2 and spice, that'll mess you up because they've changed it so many times. Well, the same thing goes for the fentanyl. They've gone and they've changed the molecules time and time again to stay one step ahead of the DEA and the Fed. And in doing so, they've made it worse and worse and worse. And it's a crisis of our own choosing. When you take a prohibitive stance on things, you create a criminal element and you force people to find a workaround. And the workaround is always worse than the thing that was illegal in the first place that you chose to take away.
Always, yeah.
It's humanity.
You got to close the door first. You got to close the borders off, right? And people want to come to the country. You got to do it the correct way. I mean, at this not only with the drugs, the homeless, the crime, or any of these things that are going on. Now we have to really think about all of those people from all around the world that are just being able to come in here. The terrorists. I mean, whatever you want to call them, people that want to come in here and actually do something. And I'm really looking at this thing like they got such an open door policy. It's like, and we see the statistics of who they have caught, who was on the terrorist watch list and all this stuff, all these people coming in. It's just like, wow, we are so open to so many things of everything from every element of this country is like, it's insane.
You can't use Tammany Hall and the 19th century as a litmus test for immigration. You can't do that because the old saying is what's been seen can't be unseen. And there's a lot of things that have happened now that will not stop unless you stop it. You can't say, don't come. They're going to keep coming. And because things in their countries have gotten so bad and out of control that they're coming. They're just humans trying to find a better way. And it's terrible that you have to turn people away. But when you commit to a social system or safety net where you have to have people pay in order to cover the people that are either unable to work or are too old, you can't have this many people come and do that. You crash the system. Well, that's what's happening now. It's crashing the system. The system isn't designed for this kind of influx.
And we can't do this anywhere else. We can't go to
No.
another country. I mean, they're not going to let us in the country unless we do it the right way. There's reasons for these types of
That's
things.
right. You go overseas. Go over to Gaza. All right. And I want you to go to the Egyptian border and say, I want to come over. I'm going to get in here. They're going to shoot you dead.
Right.
They're going to shoot you dead, and they're going to shoot any refugee that tries to go and find safety. And as a human, who would want to live in such unspeakable horror and filth and disease and suffering? And by the way, Ken, fix your mic again. You're doing a little crackly crack. Oh, that sounds good.
Is that good?
That is excellent.
All right.
That is excellent. Yeah. So if you think about it from the humanity standpoint, the amount of suffering going on in the world is huge. It's heavy. It's unspeakable. It's unfathomable.
And what's crazy though is that so you have a lot of these people that are like, okay, I'm gonna go to the U.S. This is my shot. I'm gonna live the American dream. And then they're getting over here and they're finding out it really isn't the American dream that they were hoping for, right? Because now they're sleeping in front of a police station in Chicago in sub-zero temperatures, and they have nowhere to go, nothing, and all of this stuff. And a lot of them are like, you know what? Maybe this was a bad idea. I kind of want to go back to Venezuela, right? And you have a lot of them that
a lot of them do. Even the Venezuelans that fled to Colombia after Maduro had that crisis, that constitutional crisis with the guy that the West had bought and paid for and eventually beat. They were saying that just going there to Colombia, it was so bad, they had to come back. They had to go back to Venezuela because it was just too hard to manage. And the same thing happens here.
We're reaching a point to where it's almost like there's nowhere to go anymore.
Well, there isn't.
The reality of this sort of global economic collapse, if you will, is affecting everybody, and there's nowhere you can run. There's nowhere you can hide. You're gonna feel it at some point, sometime. And
it reminds me of Revelation when it talks about the tribulation and a time that is so bad that men's hearts will fail them, and a time that has been as unlike any other in the history of the earth. That's how bad it's going to be.
Did you say that their hearts will fail them?
Yeah, their hearts will fail them.
Oh.
As all I can say is that there's a lot of correlation, and I'm a firm believer in biblical prophecy. It's proven itself time and time again to be true. The only time it goes sideways is when you try to use it to predict the future. If you try to predict the future with it, oh yeah, Jesus is returning February 24th or whatever September is, the September date. I can't remember, but anyway, and there's so many people that got let down when he didn't show up, and it's funny because
and even beyond biblical prophecy stuff, right?
Oh, there's so many other sources. It's nuts.
Yeah, and all you have to do is just look at history and the way things kind of repeat themselves or echo.
We're creatures of habit, bro.
And it's like we're falling back into one of those patterns, right?
We are indeed. Things are self-destructive humans. Yes, we are.
What do y'all truly see happening coming up, like in the next year for 2024? What do you guys see?
Man.
We know by now not to do that because we're never. We'll put it this way: I'll say something, but it's going to be something so far out of left field that all of us are just going to be like, damn. You know, because that's really what happens.
Go for it, Joe. I want to hear far left field. I mean, because that's fine. It's fine to theorize. You know, of course we're hardly ever right because they do surprise us. They do surprise us. You know, but you know, I think it's really good for us to have our little think tank and game stuff. Just the possibilities. We're not saying 100%. You know, it's going to occur, but you know, like me, I think I'm thinking a terrorist attack, something like that, something big. You open just by the evidence of opening up a border and letting people in, something big's going to happen.
Okay, so let me say this. The Her report that came out yesterday on Biden was pretty damning. As a matter of fact, for a sitting president, I've never heard anything like that, where they just threw that poor MFer under the bus. And everybody knows he's senile. I mean, you don't need a damn government report to tell you that, but at least you have some sort of acknowledgement from the powers that shouldn't be that what we're seeing is true. I mean, does it really matter? I don't think so. But what it tells me is they need an event to happen that's so bad because this guy's so incompetent. They got to tie his incompetence to something, right? They already know that he can't run an economy. We've seen that shit. That's not good. We've already seen what he's done with, we're going to bring America together. Yeah, we sure did. Yeah, we sure did. We see how well he is at enforcing the current laws like immigration and things like that. Yeah. There's plenty of laws on the books. You don't have to fix it. All you got to do is let the damn Border Patrol do their job. And if they need help, you give them help. That's all you got to do. And it would stop tomorrow. But they don't want it to stop tomorrow. Now, I think that they have let so many damn sleeper cells, Manchurian candidates, and you name it in here. You may be working with one. You don't know. But I think there's going to come a time here in the not so distant future where you're going to have something like that happen, where you're going to have some attack from within, because that's the only way the United States can be defeated. You can't defeat us militarily because we're like Afghanistan. That's where empires go to die. America's the same way. But if you could get 6 million sleepers in here over the course of a decade and a half, and then all of a sudden you send the signal out and the bucket helmets come down and all hail plankton.
Absolutely. Scotty, I know you got something on mind there. What's your predictions for 2024?
Oh my goodness, man. I don't know. There's I'm like Joe with this, every time we think we got something nailed down, it's like something completely out of left field, right? Because in 2018, did anybody have COVID and lockdowns on their bingo card for 2019? Absolutely not,
No, but we went through SARS, right? We went through SARS,
right.
And it stayed in China. It never came over here. So when you started seeing the Chinese with their masks again,
bird flu, all that stuff.
Whatever. Everybody's like, whatever. Right. It's that Chinese SARS shit again.
And then who would have thought that it would have turned out into one of them events that was, like I've said on the show here before, the whole lockdown thing and the whole COVID thing. I mean, that's one of those events where it was like, you think of a time before it and after it, right? Like 9/11, right? There was before 9/11, after 9/11. There's before the lockdowns and then after the lockdowns, all of the things that they were able to implement and get away with under the guise of emergency powers and a medical emergency and all of the things that they were able to do and the rights that they were able to strip away from people and force them to do things, these medical interventions, if you will. So for me to try and predict what's going to happen next year, I don't know, right? Like, so, I'm kind of with Joe on this and probably you too, Ken, where, we've had this rush of just unmitigated immigration, illegal immigration.
You don't know.
Right, you don't know. where they're coming from, who they are. I mean, Middle Easterners, same kind of skin complexion as South Americans, and
where
they can
that's
blend
really
in,
concerning,
and they found Korans and stuff,
where
on
that's
the border,
concerning, where that's
and
concerning, and I got to say this because this plays right into what you're saying, is the fact that it used to be that, when you moved into the neighborhood, the welcoming committee would come out. Now everybody's just doing this through the blinds because what's been seen can't be unseen. We've been traumatized, man. We were much more innocent in the 50s, in the 60s, even though we've been through some horrific wars and everything else. There wasn't that dehumanization that's
right.
taken place. Now that factors into it. So, like you're saying, Scotty, you've got all this stuff going on, but everybody's isolated. Nobody's
Right.
talking.
And
Nobody's teaming up. So it makes it very
you
easy to implement
right
something like this.
because you've had all of this division going on where everybody's at each other's throats over ridiculous crap, the polarization of politics, the kind of the radicalization of everybody on all sides, right? From the crazy, woke brigades of the left to the crazy QAnon type people too, right? I mean, you've created such a polarizing atmosphere, and now when we're talking about the elections, right? So you've got Biden and Trump, right? And it's like they're both of those figures, both of those people are so polarizing. It's like
But
you
they
have
need a
people that are like,
reason.
I'm never gonna vote for this guy. I'm never gonna vote for that guy. And I mean,
They need a reason to get him off the ballot. And just
right?
doing so, just doing so because he's senile, that's not going to work. And the 25th
And in a
Amendment's not
way,
going to
I
work
think
because
they don't want either of them there, right? They
no,
want to get
no, of
rid of
course it's
both
because
because
yeah, she was
yeah,
the insurance policy, but now it's like, oh
and
my God, this could be a reality. What the hell? Oh boy, this
yeah,
is bad.
and so I mean, what happens in the next year? I mean, it's going to be wild. I mean, is there going to be a big event that occurs where they try to like, rally the nation under one sort of, get everybody all patriotic? Yeah, 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 we're all one people again, right? Get the country back together under something, to. And what is that? What would that be? How would that come to fruition? I don't know, right? But they they want to get the masses to sort of cheer for their own enslavement at some point. And we talk about the Hegelian dialectic, right? Problem, reaction, solution.
The homeless right now, right? Could you imagine? There's so many homeless, and it becomes such a crisis. Well, we have the solution, my friends. We're going to set up these economic housing zones, a la FEMA camps, and we will provide shelter for all of
Mm.
you. Don't worry, it's very affordable. But now you're going to start to see people
Oh.
willingly walking to FEMA camps because they can't afford to. Folks, I mean, this is the way it works, and unfortunately, it
Dang,
doesn't work the way it thinks it's going to happen. But this is how it happens, and history shows
that's
it.
that's something I hadn't heard for a while. The old FEMA camp getting dropped. Now
But it's going
you're
to be
making my
classified as an
you're making
emergency.
my gears turn now
No, because
thinking
you think
about
about
that.
it, right? And
You have
people
all
will
these people.
willingly
What are you going
walk
to do
there.
with them? Yeah, what are you going to do with them?
They've
Where are they
had
going to go?
they've had the legislation passed back in the early 2000s. I mean, remember seeing the documents? What was KBR had contracts in the early
Yeah.
2000s, and it got renewed. I think it was 2005.
For
So I mean, they didn't
24-hour readiness. Yeah, to be ready in
exactly.
24 hours.
And they got all of these places ready that they could use. They got contracts to build new ones. So those things are still there. But, there was always considered, oh, there's some conspiracy theories, even though when you show them the legislation that was passed into law and all the money that got appropriated to those things. And Like, yep. And then in the legislation, it also had at the bottom all the uses for it, whether it was, camps for migration or emergencies. And then they had the miscellaneous part that they always like to add in those documents at the end of, basically for whatever they deem necessary to be used for. And yeah, I could see that. I hadn't thought about that, Joe. That's a good one. Yeah, definitely.
So FEMA, there was some executive orders that basically they were put in place in 1979 that should a national emergency occur, something like we see unfolding now, like you could see, say, a war from within. Because again, that's the only way that this country is going to get taken down is from within. You can't take it from without. I mean, without radiating the hell out of everybody, and you don't want to do that, right? These guys aren't that stupid. I hope not. But I guess they have the contingency plan anyway, because they're all building bunkers and either in the Ozarks, Hawaii, you name it, they're all building these bunkers to survive. Which I think too, the nuke thing is just I think that's a ruse too. And really, where I think that's a ruse is because they know that global destruction is coming, and they're building their little survival caves for what will eventually occur. When they know that the sun's going to act up, they know that it's going to wreak havoc, they know that we're due to flip. So all that stuff's going to happen. So, but at the same time, can we keep the wheels on the bus long enough for that? So they have all these contingency plans, I don't really think it's all about civil war, not in the organic sense of you thinking like red versus blue or a Republican versus Democrat or rebel versus the Union. I think it's more along the lines of, are you with us or are you with the terrorists? And if you're with us, then we need to know you're with us. So you come to these FEMA camps. So that way we know you're not the enemy, and come to work for the good guys and do that. That's the only, and the way you keep doing it is you keep fomenting this crisis. More and more people can't afford basic cost of living. So what do? We're running out of space. Well, let's get the FEMA camps. They're coming. I'm telling you, they're coming. And it's not the way that we envisioned it. It's not because of anything other than all an orchestrated self-destruction, a slow death.
And they've already acclimated people and got them used to, shelter in place, stay at home, don't move around.
Yeah, don't defend yourself. Don't defend yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then, of course, like I say, you got Cataclysm, and then it's Snowpiercer time, where you have the different cabs on the train, each one a different sector of society, and you get to eat bugs.
I'm really looking forward to my cockroach protein bar, Joe.
Yeah. Sounds good, but hey, why not? They're pushing it in schools. They're pushing it as a viable protein alternative. They're collapsing livestock inventories so that they can.
I find it hard, though. I find it hard to get children to eat something that they knows bugs in. It's just kind of hard to get children to eat the vegetables. You know what I'm saying? I can't imagine saying, I'll just go for my kids. They see a little spot on a corn dog. They see a little mark on a corn dog. They don't want to mess with that corn dog. I can't imagine trying to hey, come on, get some of this bug burger. I don't know. I mean, I guess they can assimilate people into there.
To show you that I am going to prove you wrong. I was a kid. I was a kid once, and when I was a kid, one of the things that I really enjoyed, and I really started to enjoy it, especially in the military, because MREs sucked. And so my parents would send me
ham and eggs.
One of my favorites, right? Which is your, let's see. There you go. Arma Vienna sausages, hot and spicy.
Oh, that's a stuff right there. I like that.
These Vienna, they are delightful. Now, if I read the ingredients.
Don't ruin it for me, Joe. Don't ruin it for me.
If I read the ingredients, Mechanically separated pig and chicken parts don't exactly sound appealing. However, it has not stopped me from eating one of my favorite treats. So all I can tell you is whether
Yes,
it's mechanically separated cockroach protein, I don't think if it tastes good, it's good, baby. It's good.
I was about to say, if as long as you can grind it into a gelatinous enough consistency and then add enough flavor to it, people will be none
Bologna
the
comes
wiser,
in
man.
many different flavors, does it not? Look at that. You can make bologna out of anything. Now you're making it
if
out
you
of
can dip it,
cockroach.
if you can dip it in ranch, it's good to go, huh?
Amen to
Right,
that,
there
brother.
you
Amen to
go.
that.
Yeah.
So, or put hot sauce on it. That's my thing. If you can put hot sauce on it, it's good. So, but I eat trash every day, man. I mean, what do you want? It is what it is. I like it. And you're going to eat a lot worse as time goes on, especially those that are in poverty, because how in the hell do you pay for groceries at this point in time? And you're telling me that government assistance is covering that? I saw what some of these people are getting for SNAP, dude. And I get the outrage by people that says, well, it's, the social safety net is too much and everything else. Baloney, man. 21st century, there's enough resources on this planet for everybody to not go hungry and to have a place to live.
Oh
And
yeah, one quick example, Joe, on
yeah.
that is go to an all-you-can-eat buffet. Look at all the food that's just trash
Oh man, yeah, you
in the
got it.
trash. I mean, people get the food. That's why I always go with, there's not enough food for the world. And I'm like, nah, I don't know about that. You just go to all you can eat buffet, look in the trash at the food that's just wasted. In that alone, no way. Don't tell me there's not enough food for everybody.
I mean, never forget, Henry Kissinger talking about how you can control a population with food, right? And so, uh, the the resources are there. It's just how are those resources being doled out, and who's hoarding those resources for, uh, agendas and for reasons, and to keep people, under control. It's all about control, man. And
It is. And why Ange
yeah.
just said, why do you think Sasquatch has always been in like the darkness and on the fringes and always always tries to avoid humans? Because they know they've been here probably as long, if not longer than we have. And they're like, humans are straight up tripping. Yo, we ain't going over there. No way. We'll just eat them. We'll eat them, but that's about it. That's all good. I'm serious when I tell you that all of this is engineered, that it is engineered by design. It is there are more than enough resources. Nobody should be going hungry at this point. Pope Francis. Pope Francis, his very first year as Pope. Now, this is a guy that espoused socialism and was a big proponent down in Argentina of the Peronist type of rule and the socialistic stuff that Malay's now trying to undo and having a hell of a time doing it. But the very first Christmas that he was the Pope, you know what he did? He went down to a homeless shelter and handed out 24 sleeping bags. Now, here's a guy that's sitting on some of the world, on riches beyond your wildest dreams. You got St. Peter's Cathedral that's just, how much gold is in that place, right?
Right.
Now, you could solve world hunger tomorrow. I don't give a crap what you're saying. They have the resources and they have the infrastructure and they could do it. And all it would take, in my humble opinion, would be somebody like that to be like, okay, you know what? We're going to freaking melt St. Peter's Cathedral and we're going to get all this gold and we're going to feed people and we're going to house people. And
problem solved. Exactly.
I'll bet you'd have a lot of people that would be fall in lockstep and trust, and you would have control and you would have all of that, but you don't, because it's too damn hard to live by design. And now they're going to do what they got to do to fold the whole thing and start anew with their new society, their great society. You hear it called the New World Order. That's just the latest flavor of
Right.
whatever they want to go to. But really, it's, you know, their utopian, their great society.
And then remember back when we was looking into all of that Lucius Trust stuff,
Oh yeah.
and oh man, I mean that was like some mind blowing stuff. But you know that gives you an insight of like their mindset and sort of their what would you call it? Their kind of esoteric sort of
well, it's
for,
Nephilim speak. I don't know. It's all those. It's all
right.
the ones, the watchers, the ones that are suffering endlessly right now on Earth, being banished because they were naughty. Right. So that's them. They're all doing this. That's what's driving all that behind the scenes. But it's just like their plans. There's layers, you know, to the hierarchy, and it's
Right.
all it all boils down to that battle of good versus evil. And you know, we could make the choice tomorrow. Um, you know, they I think there was a guy that figured it out that you could get everybody in the United States and put them in the state of Texas and give them like 2 acres and a house, and you'd have enough housing and enough land just in the state of Texas.
Right.
If everybody lived like a monk, you know what I mean? You
Right.
could do it. But that's, of course, we're way beyond that. Thank you, Edward
How
Bernays.
much do we spend a year on defense?
Almost over $800 billion.
$800 billion.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, interest on the national debt, I think, is around 1.4 trillion.
So if we spend 800 billion on national defense, right? What do you think? I mean, just say theoretically we decided, okay, let's take 100 billion of that. 100 billion out of 800 billion, and invest that into healthcare.
Okay, so how much do you think an average house would cost to build? A 3-bedroom house, say 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. Just cost, not what it would sell for, but how much it would cost to build. Let's just say it's 100,000. Just for whatever, right? So 100,000, and how much do you want to put towards that? 100 billion? Is that right?
100 billion. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
If we took 100 billion from defense spending, right?
Okay,
They've still
so
got
what,
700
I gotta count.
billion.
1, 2, 3. 1,
They
2,
still got
3.
700 billion.
1, 2, 3. I need 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Divided by 100,000. You would be able to build 1 million 3-bedroom, bath and a half houses for $100 billion if each house cost 100,000.
Wow.
So there you go. I mean, there's an example right there. So that just goes to show that we have the resources, we have the ability to solve a lot of these problems.
We do.
And believe me, 700 billion still for defense spending is not a small chunk of change. So
hey, what can I say? I like Carl Sagan. He's an interesting cat. He's an interesting cat.
But hey, but also remember the 2023 Festivus report totaling 900 billion. Let's add that on to it. We're living large. We're living large in.
But now you start to see you could solve the affordable housing crisis just like that. It's all about where are we putting this resources? Where are we putting the resources? Are we going to put it to work for us? Are we going to send it somewhere else? Are we going to spend it on meaningless wars? You know, how much would the Afghanistan war, if we put all that towards housing and food? We'd be there.
Come on,
or
Joe.
training.
Zelensky needs another bag. He needs another bag, dude.
You know, but here's the problem. Here's the problem with that, right? It's truly utopian in nature, meaning that it's just pie in the sky thinking. Humans don't operate that way. We're unfortunately too human to be able to execute something like that. And I get it. I get it. But you know, that's the problem. We've learned the hard way, and history shows us that communism on a micro scale works wonderfully. It is fantastic on a micro. On a macro, it is the worst, most destructive thing you can do if you want long-term viability for your country or people, because you lose sight. There's not enough accountability to go around, and people will go, oh yes, well, if I could get another million or so, my family
And
will
I
be
think,
taken care of, and they do
and
it.
that's
You
also
know,
why I think a
it's
lot of
corrosive,
people
corrupt.
like, yeah, a lot of people also like they fall into that romantic vision of communism because maybe they've lived on a small commune or
But
whatever.
that's
Like,
it,
hey, well,
right?
it worked when we were on the
Because it
little
does.
commune. But when you expand that to the size of a country, no. It's not a scalable system whatsoever. So
Too many people
And
get away with murder.
it kills innovation, creativity,
right,
striving.
exactly, yeah.
It takes basically, you know, in a smaller level, it takes like you're at work. You have these people at work. You work with these people. All of a sudden, everybody's getting paid the same thing. You put in more work. You come in early. You leave late. You put,
And
but
what
you
the
have
hell do I
somebody
have to work harder
who's
for?
hardly there, and you know, all the time, and they're getting the same amount of money. There's no fairness in communism at all, really, if you look at it.
No, no. Like I said, the only time that works on a micro is if you're living on a commune, in a commune, and you're all pulling towards the same thing. You know, in that scenario, you don't want to be the guy being left behind, not because you don't get paid any more than the next guy, but because there's that accountability there. You don't want to be seen as the weak link, nor do you want to put your community at risk because you didn't do what you were supposed to do.
Right. And on a country level, it's an entirely different thing. You got people
Right,
from
because then there's
different
no
backgrounds.
accountability.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
So that's why it doesn't work. And I fail to understand why so many people still espouse it when it has a total track record of failure on a macro level.
It's hip
Like,
though,
Right.
Joe. It's hip. It's the hip thing
can't they
nowadays.
find something else?
I know exactly. It used to be, you know, they would expound to you to be happy with the person that you are. I mean, say you're a little dude, you know, like me, a little thin guy, you know, and okay, I'm not going to be some, you know, NFL football player. I'm not going to be the big, you know, heavyweight boxing champion of the world, but
Nope.
you be happy with what you have to offer. Now they want everybody to, you know, I guess really truly believe that they can be that, and they'll give them a trophy or something nowadays. I mean, it's insane
Right.
what they, you know, they put out there, and I think it's a lot of the things that are going on, especially, you know, for communism and things, is that, you know, they'll put that out there in the TikTok, the things that hit the younger folks. You know, it's like, yeah, I can go out here, go to school, and then, you know, I go to college for free. They should pay. Everybody should pay for this for me to go, and there's no responsibilities, there's no drive, and it's
I'll be
bringing
honest with
down
you.
it. Mhm.
I'll be honest with you. If there's one thing that I would not charge for in this country, it'd be education. Education is the cornerstone of everything. And you have to encourage that as much as humanly possible and get people to understand, you know, and take their understanding to the as far as they can take it. The problem that you have is greed has gotten in the way of that. And now these universities charge so much that you can't, I mean, it is a burden
But that's the
and
problem. That's the problem with it. And
should never be.
I totally concur with free education.
Me too.
I think everybody should be taken care of as far as health care, things are like
Yep.
that. We have those means. But the point is like you said, the greed is like when, well, who's going to pay for these outrageous prices? You know, it's going to be the taxpayer to pay, okay, for the forgiveness of, you know, any kind of student loans or any of these healthcare things. I remember back during Obamacare when that came out. I'm sitting here, I was dodging around. I was like, I'm not filing my taxes. You know why? Because I'm going to get fined. I'm going to get fined that don't make enough money to actually afford. I make more than to get the free stuff, but I don't make enough to actually afford all the mandates on this. So what
That's
I'm
right.
going to doing is I'm going to be paying for people to have the health care that I can't afford for myself and my family. It goes back to that fairness. There's no fairness in that.
No, no, because it's a greed-driven system. You have to take the greed out of it. That's why I'm saying, like, even right now, we're facing a crisis because of all of this, because of the advancement of technology, because of the advent of automation and just how much that's going forward. AI taking away like your administrative assistant. You don't have those anymore. They've been eliminated. And very basic low income jobs are being eliminated and causing issues. It's going to cause issues down the road. So, what happens when money is obsolete, when human labor is obsolete? What do you do? What system do you transition to? These are conversations that we should be having because it's sooner rather than later that even more people will be homeless and more people will be suffering and starving because they can't find work because the system failed them.
Yep. Customer
You know,
service gone.
and
I mean,
everything's automated.
everything's going to be automated. That's why I always think it goes back to what it always has gone back to. That's when you need your roofers, you need your plumbers, you need your electricians. Unless they got them
Yep.
cyborg cats out there with the AI and they're doing it until we reach that level. Like now, I think it's a lot of trade because that's always been
Yep.
needed, and everybody said, "Oh, well, we can all go to college now and we can get these big fancy degrees and we can, get these high jobs." Well, guess what? They're going to be gone, and it's going to continue to go with the steady work is back there to the trades.
That's
Right.
right.
Exactly.
That's right. That's the one thing I told my son and my youngest and my oldest sons was that you guys want to be survivable and ensure, like, that's why I've been in maintenance my whole life, in industrial maintenance, is because the last person to lose their job is the guy that fixed the robots. And
Hmm.
until the robot doctor comes along that can fix them, but that's probably not it. So as time goes on, Dr. Joe is going to be the only one with because I'm Hal's doctor, and that's okay. I'll be Hal's doctor. Okay, Hal, you got it, buddy. You got it, boss. All right, boss. Because that's the way it's going to be. But that's what you do. You got to be survivable. And the trades, there will always be a need for that. And for too long, they push 4-year universities for needless, stupid crap. And now we're flooded
Right.
with
Not
incompetent, programmed husks of
right.
human
Not
beings.
not only are you overpaying, right, but then you're paying to be indoctrinated with
That's right. With
radical
trash.
political agendas and trash and all of that. And so yeah, I mean,
So it's no bueno. But hey, you know what? We got a few minutes left before we have to go. And
Bill
I got
chimed
to
in and said we definitely need low cost trade schools. I agree.
faux show. Faux show. So any closing thoughts there, Ken? We got a couple of minutes left.
Oh, I have a
I
lot.
know.
I have a lot. I wouldn't know where to start from. But I would do want to say it's really good back hanging with you guys, man. I missed y'all so much. I really did. So I just want to get that out there. As far as the world, man, the madness never ends. They're gonna continue doing what they're doing, and we're gonna continue doing what we do. The best thing to do is educate yourself. Talking about the education, that's the real education. Is don't take what
Right.
these people out there in the masses, in mass media, and it's mainstream media is saying. Really look into this stuff. It's like all these things. They have the people going out into these groups of people protesting different things, and they're sitting there, and these people had just seen it on a TikTok video, and they spent about like 2 minutes researching, and they think they know some history. No, no. When
Right.
you think you know everything, you are in the wrong lane. You need to continue to educate yourself and make sure you're right. Make sure you're right. If you're going to go out there and protest something, make sure you're protesting something you know about and there's a real reason you're doing it.
Amen, brother.
And just keep educating yourself. That's what I want to do with the remainder of my life. I want to continue like I had. If I'm wrong, I want to know I'm wrong because I don't want to be spouting, misinformation, especially, at this day, great day. I'm cool to be wrong, and I just want to know the truth. That's basically what it's all about, and knowing my opinions and not spreading opinions and views when I'm just, I'm just totally taking something, a tagline off of a headline of media or something like that. So anyway, yeah, that'd be my final words tonight, gentlemen. But again, it's awesome hanging with you guys again, man. Y'all are awesome.
And we're glad to have you back, my man. We're glad to have you back.
Indeed, man.
So I guess that's about it from us. So tune in next week when the Freedom Link rides again. Until then, go to kgradb.com, become a member today. You can even do a free trial, 7-day free trial. So take them up on that and give it a shot. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.